I've said a few times recently that silver has been something of a boring market. But in fairness, since the end of March, we have seen this recovery in the price that took it from $24 up towards 28. We've seen the price sell off over the last week. So actually, is this a buying opportunity, or is silver set to disappoint once more and slip back to $24? It's always interesting to take a look at silver. And if we take a look at the bigger picture over the last, 9 months or so, we can see that silver is trading now pretty much where it was just on the way up in August of last year. We've seen plenty of volatility week to week, month to month, but no real change in direction. But we have had this recovery that's been going on since the brief move below $24 at the end of March, pushed as high recently as 27.86 and has backed off a bit. So in this video, as usual, I'll talk about what to watch out for silver. Inflation is becoming more of a concern across all financial markets. Will it help silver? Then we'll come back, look at this in more detail and see if there's a trade to do. We do have some trades at the moment. So we've got a couple of trades in here, going back a way actually, 16th of Feb and 1st of March, slightly against us at the moment because the price has been chopping. We've had no real direction. So let me talk a bit about what to watch out for silver. We'll come back and we'll see, is there another trading opportunity? Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought it was time we did an update on silver. It's had a good run over the last 6 weeks, but does it really change anything? So as usual in this video, I'll talk a bit about what's been driving it, what to watch out for. I think there's a really obvious thing to watch out for in the weeks ahead. Then we will jump back onto the platform, look at things in more detail and see if there is another trading opportunity that we can take advantage of. As usual, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could click on subscribe, it does help support the channel. It means we can continue to push out lots of different content throughout the week. Plus, of course, we now do every Friday live streams from 2:30 UK time. We take a look at silver and a whole host of other markets. If you're subscribed with the alarm bell notification pushed, you get an update off YouTube whenever we go live. Anyway, let's get into it and take a look at silver in a bit more detail. So the year so far in silver, it has been volatile. We've seen the price range from about $24 an ounce as high briefly as 30, so plenty of volatility. But actually little change year to date. At the time of recording, silver is trading not a million miles away from where it ended 2020, just above $26 an ounce. There are quite a few hopes that this was going to be a good year for silver. Bullish analysts were pinning their hopes on increased economic activity. As the world comes out of lockdown and we get an economy moving more back to normal, more industrial activity, would see more demand for silver as a metal there as part of the industrial process. But so far, at least, we're not really seeing that reflected in the price. One of the uses of metals traditionally, when it comes to financial markets, perhaps more so for gold, but also for silver, is we see it used as a hedge against inflation. There had been murmurings over the last few months that perhaps inflation would be an issue as the year went on. And anybody holding that view was given some hope. Over the last week, we saw the largest jump in US inflation in more than 10 years. So a fairly big leap. It has spooked other markets as well. So that's another thing that bullish analysts would pin their hopes on. Further inflation would be good for silver. But the problem here is that inflation may not just be good for silver. It might be good for the US dollar. We have seen the US dollar rally somewhat on this inflation news, with perhaps some speculating rates will have to go up sooner rather than later, which could lift the US dollar. A rising US dollar would put pressure traditionally on the price of silver. So I don't think higher inflation is automatically going to lead to higher silver prices. But saying all of that, it's still been a good 6 weeks for the price of silver. We've seen the price go from $24, the recent low. It's risen by about 10% since then. It's a good performance. It hasn't actually changed the trend for silver since August of last year. We're still broadly sideways. Let's take a look at the levels to watch, then we can jump onto the chart and look at things in more detail. So for me, the immediate hurdle is just ahead of $28, so $27.90, a recent high in May where we've seen the price back away from. If we saw it rally through there, I think things then do start to look a bit more bullish. But we are still in this uptrend for the last 6 weeks. With support, the next two levels of support coming in from about 24.50 to about 25.60 an ounce. But as usual, let's put some color on these numbers. Let's see where the trend might go next. Let's take a look at the chart. So let's start things off with the really big picture of the last, 12, 15 months or so. We had the lows in March of last year, briefly below 12. Then, of course, the price punched up near 30 in August. It had another look at 30 in early Feb, but didn't really hold. So we've just seen what is a broad sideways range between 30 and 22 near enough since August of last year. But it's the short term that might be a bit more interesting. Let's take a look at that in a second. For now, let's take a look at some of the indicators. So looking at the RSI down here, the RSI, it's always a popular one. 10-day RSI, classic overbought, oversold signal. We did have an oversold signal back at the end of March, which eventually proved to be pretty good, calling the bottom. The market's moved higher since then. We went overbought on the RSI 21st of April, and we did see the market sideways, slightly weaker for a week or so. Overbought again around May the 9th, and that has so far called the top for silver, a short-term top, I should say. But perhaps what's of more interest to me is the trend that we have going on at the moment. So what I want to do is just zoom in to the hourly chart. Let's see if there's a trade to be set up here. So for now, let's just focus on the price action. And we've got a definite trend there. The definition of an uptrend, a succession of higher highs and a succession of higher lows. We've clearly got that. If we're watching the trend line is coming in around $26.50 at the moment, that sort of area. And this trend has done a good job of supporting the price. So if we wanted to buy into this trend, then weakness, as we've seen over the past few days, can be an opportunity. As usual, the important thing for me is, well, where's my stop going to go? If I think this trend is going to continue, I'll be looking for a move back up to at least those highs from May the 10th, just shy of $28 an ounce. Probably the most aggressive place I'd want my stop loss would be the other side of this trend line. So perhaps the other side of 26.50. For me, that's a little bit too close. So I want to look back to these sort of major short-term lows, May the 4th, May the 5th, and May the 6th. So we've had 3 days on a row there where if the market traded down to $26, the buyers came back out to lift the price. So for me, that's an obvious place to put my stop. I might give it a bit more room and go down at 25.60. So about $1.30 away from where the price is currently trading. I think it's an interesting trade to do down at these levels. I think if we start to lose $26, clearly that trend is breaking down. And it doesn't mean the price is going to fall off a cliff, but perhaps we'll just see further sideways directionless trading. So I think it's an interesting trade to do here. Let's set it up. So I'm ready to go. The price at the moment is trading at 26.95. I'm going to be a buyer, 240 ounces, where the price is trading now. As usual, I'm putting my stop loss in. My stop's going in at 25.50. It's for our normal level of risk, which is about £250. I think that's a fair enough trade to do down at these levels. Let's see how it turns out. Let's send the order through. So that's it. Our trade is filled, buying 240 silver at 26.93.8. Let's go back onto the daily chart. So looking at the dailies now, you can see we are coming back to this trend line. It would be good to see a bit of strength come in over the next couple of days or so. Let's see what happens. So my target, if we're going to see this trend to continue, looking for a run back up to the 10th of May highs, just shy of $28. I think if we can break 28, the obvious target, next target, it's not a million miles away, but it's those mid-Feb highs up around $28.30. So I think it's an interesting trend to follow. As I say, if we see it break down, my stop's in at 25.50. Seems like a good place for a stop. Lots of support ahead of that level over, nearly the last month or so. I think if we see it break down to here, the risk is we just go back into this sideways trading for pattern for silver. and it starts to look pretty boring again. But a really interesting market to watch down here, given the concerns about inflation, given the fact we do have this 6-week trend that's been doing a good job chugging away from these levels. So whilst I think it might be some time before we see silver at $30 an ounce, I think this latest trend and the weakness over the last 5 days or so has given us an interesting setup with some obvious places for stop losses. Let's see how it plays out. That's it for the update on silver. We'll see if it can continue this 6-week recovery. We'll come back to it in a couple of weeks and have a look. But for now, from me, David Jones and Capital.com, we'll leave things there. Good luck with your trading. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.